Hello, world. California, your new governor here. Well, soon to be. Just want to get a little bit of news out there that probably nobody's even heard of. This is from Europe Today News, and it was actually written years ago. Let me get to the open in browser here. Let's see if I can get a date on this. It's from the WordPress, and let's see. Well, let's just say it regards news back from like 2012, 2016. Yet I would say it's very relevant to what we're seeing today. So let's start. The title is Political. Sounds like whores, but yeah, let's just go on. Dianne Feinstein and Nancy Pelosi ran insider trading scams against their own constituents. By Raymond Lee. And it goes, California companies Zap, Z-A-P, Aptera, Wright, Bramo, XP, and a large number of other companies just got a shocker. Oh, it's a big one too. They discovered via email leaks and news reports that their own senators were operating insider trading stocks market scams and trying to sabotage their companies so that those senators could pocket personal profiteering cash. Holy moly. Remember when the FBI kicked the doors in at the solar energy company called Solyndra that Obama was always promoting? That was the beginning of the end for the Pelosi-Feinstein swindle. Yeah, I don't think so. Pelosi and Feinstein owned, through trust funds, shell companies, and other covert fronts, the construction companies, leasing companies, HR services, staff investment funds, supplier assets, and other goodies for both Solyndra and its neighbor, Tesla, both of whom would not have survived if Pelosi-Feinstein had not given them taxpayer cash. This is big. Let's take a look at how these senatorial scams worked via some great digging by Politico. And it says here how the bribes were paid in the clean tech crash and energy department green cash. And this makes me really understand why they're trying to push through the Green New Deal, which has got to be the worst. It's a Green New Deal. Want to know why they call it green? Because it's going to give them a lot of green, a lot of cash. Yeah, they're very boisterous. They like to brag, and if you pay close enough attention, you can actually see what they're going to do, or put those puzzle pieces together. From 2006 to 2012, Nancy Pelosi and her staff, Dianne Feinstein and her staff, Harry Reid and his staff, and the campaign staff for Barack Obama made more illicit profiteering money on insider stock trading on green energy deals than the entire U.S. Congress had made inclusively since the founding of the USA. Since the founding. Senior staffers buy and sell shares in companies that benefit from legislation in their committees. By Maggie Severns. Taylor Calorie for Politico. On September 28, 2016, 3 members of the Senate Judiciary Committee sent a letter to the Justice Department suggesting that the drug company Mylan was violating Medicaid laws. 9 days later, the Justice Department reached a massive $465 million settlement with the firm. In between, another action happened almost invisibly. A Judiciary Committee aide to Senator Dick Durbin dropped somewhere between $4,004 and $60,000 in Mylan stock from his and his child's portfolios. If an aide had done the same thing in the executive branch, he or she could be investigated for violating federal conflict of interest law. But the Durbin aide's ownership of shares of Mylan and their timely sale are reflective of Congress' persistent refusal to crack down on stock trading by staffers. even in firms overseen by their committees. Durban aide Daniel Swanson isn't alone. A Politico review of federal disclosures for 2015 and 2016 found that some senior aides regularly buy and sell individual stocks that present potential conflicts of interest with their work. A smaller number of staffers trade in companies that lobby Congress and the committees that employ them. In all, approximately 450 aides have bought or sold a stock of more than $1,001 in value since May 2015. That's likely just the tip of the iceberg, since most congressional aides aren't required to report their trades. Only those in position earning more than $124,406 per year must reveal their investments. Of the 12,500 staffers working for lawmakers, committees, and leadership offices, only about 1,700 make that much, according to data compiled by Legistorm and the Brookings Institution. Government watchdogs say that, at a minimum, staffers should be prevented from buying shares of companies with businesses before their committees. But they are not. And despite the disparity between the rigorous standards for the executive branch and the laxness of Congress, the House and Senate have taken a permissive approach even for enforcing existing rules. Now, one of the things that really bothers me with something like this is where we're at right now, where if you are a part of the gang or the government, then, they like to look the other way. Or, for instance, there was in the stimulus thing, there's they get way more than just the regular citizens. Government is the most unorganic source of income we have. We are the ones that are paying them. And they're using all their ins and outs and things like that to make more money while they charge you and I more in taxes. The 1%, because of the fact that the middle class is gone, because of that, the 1% is now at $500,000 a year if you make that or more or something like that. It's different for different states, but seriously? Really? Wow. I mean, it's how much are they going to tax essentially until everybody is pretty much making the same thing or it doesn't even care to work because you're not going to make anything. So why work your butt off? I mean, it's disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting how they swindle, they lie, they cheat, but they want you can't cheat though. You can't cheat, and you better not swindle, and you better not anything, because you can't, because you're not part of the game. We're their bosses. So they obviously forgot, right? Anyways, sorry, let me go on. That's a serious problem, watchdogs say, because aides often have more of a hands-on role than the members themselves in crafting details of legislation that could have enormous consequences for individual companies. And because aides are rarely in the spotlight, there's more potential for ethical lapses to go unnoticed. All right, so going down, Politico investigation, reckless stock trading leaves Congress rife with conflicts by Maggie Severns. The staff level is actually more dangerous because they don't get scrutiny and they are not accountable, said Meredith McGehee, Chief of Policy at Issue 1, a watchdog group for money and politics. If a member does it, he can get defeated. A staff person can wield enormous amounts of power that isn't seen, and there's really no way to hold that staff accountable. Indeed, one of the key findings of the Politico review is that senior aides to both Republican and Democratic House leaders, who often have quiet, largely unseen input into the crafting of legislation, are active traders. At least 11 aides to House leaders have bought and sold multiple stocks in the past 2 years. David Hoppe, who was Speaker Paul Ryan's chief of staff in late 2015 and 2016, regularly traded stocks. Hoppe and his wife bought shares of the oil companies Occidental Petroleum and Devon Energy shortly before Congress announced plans to lift a year's old ban on oil exports that benefited both corporations. Diane Dewhurst, Deputy Chief to Staff of House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, disclosed her spouse's purchase of stock in 2 pharmaceutical companies, AstraZeneca and GlaxoSmithKline, in December 2016, shortly before Congress passed a medical research bill that benefited both companies. Wow. 3 things to know about congressional aid stock trading. Politico reporter Maggie Severns on the investigation into how senior staffers buy and sell shares in companies that benefit from legislation in their committees. Meanwhile, on the House Energy and Commerce Committee, which sets energy policy, and in the main committee overseeing Obamacare, at least 6 aides have bought and sold stock in companies with interest in the work of the committee. One longtime committee aide in an oversight role bought and sold more than 24 healthcare and energy stocks during 2015 and 2016 and sold his stock to Express Scripts, the prescription drug sales company, as the company came under scrutiny over its role in setting drug prices last October. Again, this is older news, but it's very relevant. On the House and Senate Appropriations Committees, which make broadly influential spending and policy decisions through annual government funding bills, your money, at least 18 House aides and 14 Senate aides have bought or sold at least one stock through their own accounts or family members. For example, one senior House Appropriations aide working for a member focused on energy and water funding has, through various family accounts, bought and sold shares in companies including Royal Dutch Shell, Energy Transfer Partners, Dow Chemical, and Emerson Electric. Another longtime aide on the committee's staff who is focused on investigations and research, which are at the heart of the committee's decision making, holds and trades stock in committees that with major interest in the committee's work, including pharmaceutical companies such as GlaxoSmithKline and energy companies such as Occidental Petroleum. Swanson Hopp and some other senior staffers said their brokers are authorized to buy and sell stocks without their involvement, and thus they were not consulted on the trades listed in their disclosure forms. But ethics watchdogs have long frowned on such personal deals, noting that they can be abridged at any time and that outsiders have no way to verify that they're being followed. Aides, like members themselves, can create blind trusts that fully bar them from involvement in any trades. If they don't want to go to the trouble of setting up a blind trust, they could protect themselves from many potential conflicts by investing in publicly traded mutual funds. Meanwhile, some staffers also defended their trading on the grounds that the congressional actions that affected the companies they bought and sold, including the 3 senator letters to the Justice Department about Milan, were known to the public. Ethics watchdogs, however, said that it's often difficult, if not impossible, to determine whether an aide has information that wouldn't be available to the public, and that any trading of stocks that are directly influenced by their committee work constitutes a conflict of interest. Let me stop real quick here, and let me make mention of, I posted a link on a video. It was the Chinese professor a while back. I can't remember exactly when, but it's been over a month probably. If you go back, read this first or listen to this first, and then if you go and you listen to that video of the Chinese professor, CCP member, talking about Wall Street and how they've been doing all this stuff, essentially, it makes a lot of sense how they have so much control, considering everybody is obviously in Wall Street, right? And they're talking about working with Wall Street to the highest of the highest. I mean, I want to know which female it is that has the dual citizenship with China and here. That's like a telltale right there. Anyways, going on, this just makes me so damn mad. I mean, we don't have to put up with this. We don't have to, but and they're just going to keep playing us. And with with us bickering at each other instead of sharing information with each other, because I've seen most people that don't agree usually don't have all the information. And then once they get that information, their mind is blown. And they're just like, I recently saw one and they were like, oh, we would watch the news and we know that, we should have been doing our own research and stuff, but we're just too busy. And that is everyone. And that is exactly what they want. They want you to be too busy. They don't want you to have, somebody, I talked to their wife's, or just, I know this, their wife, their parent is passing away. Well, this person can choose between possibly losing their job to be there for their wife or just staying and working. And this is just one of the ways that they divide family, because you have to have money to live, right? I mean, that's the way they make it anyways. There's just such a better way of doing this. And I just really, really, really want to see some real change for the people, not just some other scam artist getting in there to lie to us more. I mean, if you can sit there and you can be in politics and you don't have anything bad to say about Pelosi or Feinstein, then to me, you're not trustworthy, because these people are bad people. And I don't even know how they're still in there. How do we get them out? Do we vote for it or recall them, or like what we did with fake Newsom? I mean, I don't know, but we need to start somewhere. So hence why I'm running for governor, because it's got to end. We're losing our country. We are losing it. So we have to step up now. And I know that many others out there, if not everybody, feels the same way. So let me help you. I don't want your money. I want to do this job without pay. And I want to make things better for us all. This is bull crap that these people can get away with everything, but and then want to tax us so hard. And it's just wildly insane. They waste our money. It's not that people don't want to help people. I mean, look at all the foundations and things and people giving money all the time. Think about how much more money we could be giving if we weren't giving it to this corrupt government that just wastes it. We would probably have no homelessness. We would probably have no hunger. We're in the most richest country in the world, and then we're fighting these kind of problems? No, that's corruption. That's a lie. We shouldn't be having any of these problems at all. And that's that. So, going on. Let's see, I think continuous conflict of interest. Okay. It causes the public to question whether personal stock holdings are influencing legislative activity. No, they are. Said Donna Nagy, an Indiana University law professor who has written extensively on the issue. That doesn't necessarily mean a yes or a no vote as it would a senator or member of Congress. Did personal stock holdings influence the speed or slowness with which a report is written? That's something that would be in staffers' control. Simply having a financial stake in an industry may make a person more likely to advocate for it, at least in the eyes of taxpayers. That's the premise behind the far tougher requirements for staffers in the executive branch, where employees are required by law to rescue themselves from any investment that could potentially conflict with their work. They're not doing that. Senate committee aides are held to no such legal standard, but a little recognized Senate rule states that aides should divest themselves of any substantial holding which may be directly affected by the actions of their committee, unless they have permission from the Senate Ethics Committee. But the rule is interpreted quite narrowly. Watchdog says, the Senate Ethics Committee often measures a substantial holding by the percentage of a company that's owned by the aide, or whether an individual investment constitutes the bulk of an aide's savings, not the amount of money that's invested. So most stock trades aren't covered. The Ethics Committee declined to comment because they're in on it too. they're in on it too. Just like the World Health Organization with the CCP, and it's wild. And the Ethics Committee rarely probes stock trading by aides, ethics watchdogs told Politico. They couldn't think of a single case of an aide being investigated for a conflict of interest. The committee hasn't issued a disciplinary sanction against an aide for any reason in 10 years. There does not appear to be an effective system of enforcement in place, concluded Craig Holman, lobbyist at the watchdog group Public Citizen. This is the type of conflict of interest rule that should apply to all members as well as senior staff, enforced by real-time public disclosure or stock trading activity. Anybody who has ever met Dan Swanson knows that he has conducted himself with the utmost integrity every day of his public service on the Hill, Senator Dick Durbin's spokesman said. That may not matter to Politico, but it matters in the real world and to Senator Durbin, and that's what counts, John Schrinkel, Politico. Through their brokerage account, Swanson, who is Durbin's senior counsel on the Judiciary Committee, and his immediate family bought and sold stocks of at least $1,000 in value 120 times over 2015 and 2016, according to his financial disclosures. His family's holdings amount to somewhere between a minimum of $99,043 and a maximum of $785,000 based on the price ranges in the disclosure forms. Some of those purchases and sales were in mutual funds, while others were in the companies with significant business interests before Durbin and the Judiciary Committee. Among a variety of trades made through his and his family's accounts, Swanson bought and sold stock in 2U, a for-profit online education company that bills itself as an alternative to the traditional for-profit colleges that have been heavily criticized by his boss, Durbin. He traded stock in Comcast and Verizon, both of which have come under Judiciary Committee scrutiny in the past because of the proposed deals and mergers. And he held and sold stock in Express Scripts, a company that, like Mylan, has increasingly caught the eye of regulators and lawmakers for its possible role in drug overpricing. When asked about the trades, Durbin spokesman Ben Martyr provided a letter from Swanson's brokerage firm that says trading in Swanson's accounts is directed by the firm based on a mutually agreed upon written statement of your objectives, and that the investment firm has full authority to make trades without giving Swanson notice. Swanson declined to comment further. Durbin himself is among the many House members and senators who avoid buying and selling stocks, in many cases because of the ethical ramifications of being invested in companies while voting on and passing laws. And he introduced a bill earlier this year to force President Donald Trump and Vice President Mike Pence to completely divest themselves of any holdings that could present conflicts of interest. If Trump dropped such investments, Durbin said, it would let the American people know with certainty that he is putting America first. But when it comes to his aides, Durbin stops far short of requiring the sale of investments. Perfect example of, it's okay that we do it, but you can't do it. Well, Durbin can, yeah. Anybody who's ever met Dan Durbin, I believe, yes, right? Yeah. Anyways, Dan knows that he has conducted himself with the utmost integrity every day of his public service on the Hill, Durbin's spokesman Martyr said. That's why he's the spokesman. That may not matter to Politico, but it matters in the real world and to Senator Durbin, and that's what counts. As Paul Ryan prepared to become Speaker of the House in October 2015, he tapped David Hopp, a fellow Wisconsin native and former Hill aide, to serve as his chief of staff. Hopp left lobbying jobs with both his own firm, Hopp Strategies, and the K Street powerhouse, Squire Patton Boggs, to work for the new Speaker. After he moved back through the revolving door, Hopp continued to trade stock in companies with interest before Congress. So, essentially, all these people are in the stock market, and all of them, move bills in ways to essentially profit from them. Whether or not they're good for us, it's going to be what happens. Hopp, who has a variety of investments in his and his wife's portfolios, traded dozens of stocks between mid-December 2015 and January 2017 when he left Ryan's office. Some of those trades were made days ahead of Congress passing legislation that benefited the companies. Hopp traded in at moments when companies were furiously attempting to sway lawmakers. As a Congress finalized a massive tax and spending package at the end of 2015, Hopp and his wife invested in 2 petroleum companies that were aggressively lobbying Congress to lift the 30-year ban on oil exports, Occidental Petroleum and Devon Energy. Hopp made the purchases 16 days before Congress announced plans to lift the ban on oil. During the fall of 2016, as Congress finalized and passed a $6 billion medical research bill, Hopp's spouse invested in the pharmaceutical companies Merck and Bristol Myers Squibb. Such investments can present conflicts of interest or the appearance of, even if they are not based on inside information. Why would you need it when you're the one that's going to make it? It looks terrible. They shouldn't be doing this. Oh, yeah, of course, said Richard Painter, former ethics lawyer for President George W. Bush. Referring to stock trading by aides to House and Senate leaders, there are 2 separate problems. One is that if they buy or sell stock based on insider information, they're criminals. But if they make decisions on a bill that could have an effect on their own financial decisions, that might not be a crime. Though it is a crime in the executive branch. But it stinks to hell. Yeah, hell yeah, it does. In the executive branch, employees are barred from holding investments that pose potential conflicts with their work and must rescue themselves from decisions that could conflict with their remaining investments in Congress. However, employees are often left to set their own standards. Hopp said in an interview that he doesn't direct trades in the 2 accounts controlled by him and his wife prior to joining Ryan's office. He said he and his wife asked their brokers to keep him out of any trading decisions. There were no directions in which a broker called me and said, "Do you want to trade this? Do you want to trade that?" said Hopp. Has there been a time when they asked me about something or another? Probably, but I can't remember it. And I can tell you it wasn't when I was working for Paul. Dewhurst, the top Pelosi aide, whose spouse bought stock in pharmaceutical companies shortly after Congress moved to pass the medical research bill, has worked for Pelosi since 2003. She also recorded purchases and sales in energy and technology stocks in the past 2 years. Nearly all those transactions were listed to an account controlled by her spouse. A Pelosi spokesperson said in a statement that Dewhurst is not involved with the investments. All transactions are made by Dewhurst's spouse upon the recommendation of his investment advisor, the Pelosi spokesperson said. Pelosi is one of few members of the House and Senate leadership who actively buys and sells stocks, and she was heavily criticized for it in 2011 report by 60 Minutes about the stock trading habits of members of Congress. She has since scaled back the number of stocks that she and her husband buy and sell. An account owned by Pelosi husband traded 14 stocks in the past 2 years. An account owned by Pelosi's husband traded 14 stocks in the past 2 years. Most senior members of House and Senate leadership avoid the practice because of the potential for conflicts of interest. Ryan House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy, House Majority Whip Steve Scalise, and House Minority Whip Steny Hoyer all refrain from buying and selling shares of individual companies. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell sold 3 stocks this year, but has otherwise abstained from trading. And Senate Majority Whip John Cornyn made 1 purchase and 1 sell in recent years, each in Apple stock. So interesting. Okay. While they avoid any appearance of conflicts in their own trades, they seem to exercise little restraint on their aides, who are often the real experts on the intricacies of policies. Planned Parenthood President Cecil Richards described Dewhurst, for example, as the first person I call if I'm trying to really get the lay of the land on an important issue, particularly on the Hill, in a 2015 interview. Oh my goodness. Is this just not completely wild? Like, you know, it's crazy, right? Oh man, the money that flows through that place, it's insane. It truly is insane. And it just makes me so mad because they're the ones that, they use you, they use me, they use all of us. And here they are just flipping hand over fist, cash. Oh man. It's just, wow. Sorry, my little thing's not working. It gets stressful reading this stuff, I had to take a break from it because, my goodness. And I was listening to, the court thing yesterday, talking about the Green New Deal. And, it's just anybody that agrees with these things, they're just ignorant. And you're a victim. That's okay. But don't be a victim of arrogance where you choose not to learn. If you want, you should want to know these things because this is your future and it affects you every day and so much more than I think so many of you out there realize. And this is really, it's just wild. We truly, really do need somebody in office that cares, really cares, and doesn't care about money. That's, but just loves the people and loves freedom, loves this country. And I am that person. So keep that in mind. Don't vote for these people because, when have they ever, look at their past. Who are they? What do they do for people? Do they do anything at all? Do they take any of their time just to go out and how are they with people just in general? How do they treat people in general? It's just wild. I just really want to help. And I just really want this place to be good and us not have government in our life in every turn or every decision that we want to make. It's just, yeah. And it's not like any of that money or the fees that we're paying goes to help anything either. We could be putting all these government workers to work doing something that makes money organically, or in fact, better educating ourselves so we can actually, create amazing things and actually do better for the world and, just people in general. It could be so great, but everybody's so concerned with making $1 that we don't ever get the opportunity or the chance. And it's just so sad. It's so sad. Oh, okay. Let's see. I wish I could pause this video for a second. Okay. Okay, David Hopp, who was Speaker Paul Ryan's chief of staff in 2015 and 2016, traded stock in companies with an interest in Congress. Tom Williams, CQ roll call. Some aides who engage in trades like those on the House Energy and Commerce Committee are charged with overseeing powerful industries. In the House Committee, aides are allowed to do so while holding and trading stocks in those very industries. Meanwhile, they're sometimes being lobbied by the very same companies. The company whose stock Swanson held, Mylan, spent $315,000 lobbying Capitol Hill last fall, including $170,000 paid to the Podesta Group. Wow. Solely to lobby on drug pricing and oversight after it was accused of mischaracterizing its drug EpiPen in order to avoid having to pay a federally mandated rebate, according to the public filings. The very senior staffers ought to be considered very much like the same as members. There are policies policymaking individuals. There are the people lobbyists who want to meet with and influence. They are the people lobbyists want to meet with and influence, said Holman, a public citizen. It's their ability to affect public policy that matters, whether or not they receive votes or subject themselves to elections. For this part, Hopp recalled that during an earlier stint on Capitol Hill working for former Senate Majority Leader Trent Lott, he once recused himself from working on an issue involving the Walt Disney Company because he was a shareholder. But he said he didn't see any similar conflicts while working for Ryan, and added that he was on only a temporary stint in the Speaker's office, waiting to return to his lobbying job. I'm obviously older and they don't pay the same on Capitol Hill as I was making in the private sector, Hopp said. My wife likes living in a house as opposed to living in a car. Many Capitol Hill aides are young and don't earn enough money to have large investment portfolios, Hopp said, and nearly all are drawn to public service for reasons that have nothing to do with making money. But he didn't rule out the possibility that aides could have access to information that would boost their holdings. It is in the realm of possibility that somebody could do that. Yes, it is very likely. No, Hopp said. But people who are dishonest will find a way to be dishonest. Well, got a whole bunch of them in there. Though congressional aides are largely invisible to the public's eye, they have played roles in well-publicized scandals in the past. In the early 1960s, a Senate aide close to Lyndon Johnson named Bobby Baker, I remember that name, was investigated for using his office for personal gain, including accepting cash in exchange for promoting legislation and running a vending machine company. See, real quick, I just want to say, if we were all just honest and helpful and kind to one another and just, and did things because it was the thing to do, it was the right thing to do, we wouldn't even have any of these problems. We wouldn't have to worry about any of these problems. They're literally creating the problems by being this way. It's as simple as that. Okay. Exchange, promoting legislation, running. Okay. Accepting cash in exchange for promoting legislation and running a vending machine company. Serve you. Baker's net worth as a Senate aide ballooned from $11,000 to $2.5 million over the course of 2 decades. He was later convicted of crimes including fraud and tax evasion, and both the House and Senate soon started requiring aides to disclose their finances for the first time. More recently, since Congress passed the Stock Act of 2012 law that for the first time formally barred members of Congress from insider trading. The Sole Securities and Exchange Commission investigation of a potential Stock Act violation that's known to the public involves the action of the congressional aide. Public involves the actions of a congressional aide. The aide, a former Ways and Means Committee staff director, allegedly leaked information about Medicare reimbursement rates that were about to rise. A firm called Height Securities, which specializes in gathering intelligence in Washington and relaying it to Wall Street, sent the information to hedge funds, causing stock to shoot up in a company that benefited from the Medicare rate hike. The SEC has been investigating the case since 2013, but it was delayed for several years when House counsel refused to comply with SEC subpoenas. For testimony and documents related to the investigation. Though the SEC and the House reached an undisclosed agreement that settled the court case, the SEC hasn't yet announced the results of its investigation. But watchdogs say it shows why the laws governing stocks trades by aides needs to be tightened. Congress seems intent on protecting its unique status and perks, and the SEC remains mostly silent on stock trading. But they're going to halt a run-up when the people start making too much money. I don't know if anybody heard about all that where like GameStop and all these stocks were halted, where you could not trade in them at all. Only if you wanted to sell, I think you could sell, but you could not buy. Even points, I think you might not have even been able to sell actually too. But yeah, but if this was somebody else, that would have never happened. So essentially, because they were losing, they put a stop to the people winning, in short. We will never get ahead, and we will not win as long as we allow what is going on now to continue. And it will only get worse, and it's happening so quickly. Okay, here. We'd be a lot better off if the SEC would look into it, find out what's going on, and reach the conclusion that there are no serious insider trading concerns. Or, if there are concerns, take enforcement action, Painter said. And while concerns over separation of powers could make it difficult for the SEC to take some investigative steps, such as seizing congressional documents, Painter said, there's absolutely no reason not to start an investigation, and I think 99% of what they need, they could get without problems. The potential problems arising from aides trading stocks extend beyond insider trading. There's also the potential that investing in a company could corrupt the views or interests of staff. Yeah, duh. New York Republican Representative Chris Collins, a business titan who is among the House's wealthiest members, garnered headlines earlier this year for appearing to persuade at least 5 of his fellow House colleagues to invest in a tiny Australian drug company called Innate Immunotherapeutics, on whose board he sits. Little noticed that the fact that Collins' chief of staff, Michael Hook, has made significant investments of his own that track closely with Collins. New York Republican Representative Chris Collins was the subject of many headlines earlier this year for appearing to persuade at least 5 of his House colleagues to invest in an Australian drug company called Innate Immunotherapeutics, on whose board he sits. Collins' chief of staff, Michael Hook, has made significant investments of his own that track closely with Collins. Hook, who knew Collins before joining the lawmaker's office, owned stock in Innate Immunotherapeutics when he joined Collins as chief of staff in late 2015. During his time working for Collins, Hook aggressively sold off investments in other companies and poured the proceeds into Innate Immunotherapeutics stock in 36 transactions. Collins was and continues to be a member of Energy and Commerce, the Central Committee overseeing healthcare policy in the House. He was reelected to the board of directors of Innate Immunotherapeutics in August 2016 after a failed clinical trial drove down the company's stock. Hook reported owning at least $1 million in Innate Immunotherapeutics stock at the end of 2016. His January, Hook unloaded at least $500,000 in Innate Immunotherapeutics stock amid the weeks of scrutiny of Rep. Tom Price, President Donald Trump's choice for Secretary of Health and Human Services, who had bought stock in the companies at Collins' urging. Hook began repurchasing stock in the company at the end of January. And because I do work in stocks, and I will like sit there and watch them because I try to find trends and things like that, I can tell you that this is exactly this. It just makes sense. It really does. Innate Immunotherapeutics isn't the only company that ties to Collins that Hook has invested in. In November and December 2016, Hook invested at least $150,002 combined and as much as $350,000 in 2 real estate LLCs that were raising private capital. Sinatra in Illinois 3rd LLC and Linda Lane Apartment Group. Both LLCs are owned by Buffalo area developer Nick Sinatra, who has donated to Collins' campaign every election cycle since Collins first ran for his congressional seat. The news that Collins had suggested Price invest in Innate Immunotherapeutics set off a firestorm of bad press for the 2 House Republicans, both of whom served on the main panel in charge of setting healthcare policy. Further reports of Collins' promotion of the company to his peers and comments made near the House floor about how many millionaires I've made in Buffalo sparked an investigation from the House Ethics Committee. The committee plans to announce its course of action by October 12th. See, there it goes again. I've made, okay, comments near the House floor about how many millionaires I've made in Buffalo. See what I was saying earlier about how they literally put it out there because they're just too arrogant? Yeah, well, or, oh, whatever that word is, where pride or want to brag, you know, that kind of thing, because they just think they're so smart. They're corrupt, manipulative bastards is what they are. Hook's investments don't appear to be a part of the probe. A Hook spokesperson declined a request for comment. The spokesperson also declined to say whether Hook had consulted with the White House Ethics Committee on his investment decisions. The committee advises lawmakers and staff on how to comply with the chamber's general guidelines that employees' personal actions should not discredit Congress. They genuinely don't want to see the body brought into scandal, controversy, or disrepute. And of course they don't, because then it opens it up for all of them. They don't want that getting out, because then literally for anybody to trust the government, that's just stupidity. That's foolishness. This government has been caught in lies and deceit so many times, but now they've grown so big and have so many people in their pocket that want to make money, and the more that they charge, more people need more money, and blah, 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 blah. Like, somebody's really making out good here. I wonder who that is. Oh, man. Pretty interesting. I hate how the smoke like just stays in your lungs. It seems like they say if you breathe 3 times like full air, like then it gets everything out of your lungs. Anyways, just a little tidbit of info for you. Okay, controversy or disrepute. Said Joseph Birkenstock, a former chief counsel for the Democratic National Committee. That includes things like, is your boss twisting your arm? Are you doing things because you're under some job pressure? Or is there any credible forum where someone could claim that your actions or your boss' actions are connected in any way to the commercial success of this business? One reason that Hook's investments have not been closely scrutinized amid all of the focus on Collins and Price's stock trading, and that Hook's information, while public, isn't easy to access. It's not online and can be viewed only in person in an office tucked into the House office building. Into a House office building. In 2012, it almost seems kind of like when it just seems like as long as you don't make it available, as long as you just say no, and keep it from them, that then it's like they don't go on. I don't know. It's really weird. I've seen a couple of these things happen recently, like when they were trying to have the election fraud looked at or whatever, like they wouldn't even see it. But now suddenly they're seeing it now. They're taking the cases now. Or like when I was dealing with trying to get rid of that brand new trailer that I bought off the lot that leaked, and it took over a year, and they lawyers wouldn't help because the place wouldn't provide work orders, or they wouldn't even put on there that the trailer leaked, even though it was completely obvious, and took one person. It was only one person that denied it, but everybody else could see it. But because they wouldn't put it on paper, nobody would take the case. It's literally like, people, come on, man. Let's just. Whatever happened to WWJD? Like, what would Jesus do? Or how about what would God do? What would God want you to do? Oh, man. Just know these actions here will be following you for eternity. Okay. In 2012, when Congress passed the Stock Act, leaders crowed that information about the investments of both lawmakers and senior staff would be available online in easily searchable format. But a year later, Congress silently passed revisions to the bill that wiped out many of those data requirements because they don't want any disruption or corruption being found. So they'll do anything they have to make sure that it's not. President Barack Obama celebrates with members of Congress after signing the Stock Act into law on April 4th, 2012. The Stock Act bars members of Congress from insider trading. A Politico investigation earlier this year found that while most lawmakers refrain from trading stocks, a small number frequently trade shares in companies that oversee in Congress. When McNamee, Getty Images. Anyways, information on lawmakers is still available online, but it cannot easily be searched or sorted by date or company traded. The requirement that aides disclosures be posted online was scrapped from the law, and today such information is available only in person at computer kiosks maintained by the House and Senate, maintained by those who they want to research. Of course. Just like how all the voting ballots were destroyed, right? Jeez, this is just such corruption. Oh, it makes me sick. Oh, it makes me so mad. So freaking mad. Individuals seeking the information must log in using their name and other personal details. The documents they seek cannot be downloaded or otherwise taken out of the office in a digital format. They can be printed for 10 cents to 20 cents a page. There's little excuse for these barriers, especially in the digital age, said Larry Noble, senior director of the Campaign Legal Center. When you have to go to an agency or to Congress to have a document printed out and you put your name down, all that is to deter people from doing it. All that is to deter people from doing it. Yeah, said Noble. All that was outrageous 25 years ago. That's not the way the world works anymore. Other ethics requirements don't make the same exceptions for staff members. Conflict of interest laws governing future employment after leaving Capitol Hill treat staff similarly to members of the House. Both House lawmakers and senior staff must take a cooling off period after leaving their jobs on Capitol Hill before lobbying their former colleagues. Senators are subject to a 2-year cooling off period, while staff follow the same 1-year cooling off period as House aides. The rules in the House and the Senate on trading stock are very permissive and essentially don't regulate members and staff who are trading in industries when they work on the committee overseeing those industries. Said Kenneth Gross, who leads the political law practice at Skadden, Arp, Slate, Meager, and Flom. The House Energy and Commerce Committee. Ugh. Ugh. The House Energy and Commerce Committee provides extra guidance on stock trading to staff in its committee handbook. The handbook tells employees to avoid potential conflicts of interest and err on the side of caution by consulting the House Ethics Committee with questions, according to the expert provided by committee spokesperson. Spokespeople for the House Energy and Commerce Committee and the Senate Judiciary and Appropriations Committees all declined to state what steps, if any, their staffers who trade stocks are making to comply with their Ethics Committee guidelines. The Senate Appropriations Committee suggests that staffers are largely on their own. Committee staff are responsible for adhering to the Senate Ethics Committee rules and guidelines. Committee spokesman Chris Gallows wrote in an email. Oh, and keep in mind, too, that, we're all paying for these places to even be in existence. And you see how well they're doing their job, right? I mean, right? I mean, this makes you mad, right? Because it pisses me off, to no end, to think that they can get away with all this, but we're just trying to get by, and it's like their foot's on our freaking head, just keeping us down. That's exactly what they want to do. And, and not just financially, but smarts are the knowledge and stuff, information that's out there. It's just, they're too in our lives, too much, and have been for some time. Ooh. Okay. Where was I at here? Okay. Despite the public outrage earlier this year over Collins and Price's trading, Congress has done little to address the rules that allow the two members of the committee overseeing healthcare to buy and sell hundreds of shares of healthcare companies. Congress rarely changes its ethics laws and rules. Historically, most changes were preceded by well-publicized scandals. The last major ethics reform took place in 2006, for example, in the wake of the Jack Abramoff scandal, when lawmakers overhauled rules on what lobbyists have to disclose. In 2012 Stock Act, which explicitly barred lawmakers from insider trading, was passed in the wake of the jarring 60 Minutes report that spotlighted Pelosi's trading. Earlier this year, and 5 years after the Stock Act was passed, a Politico investigation found that while most lawmakers refrain from trading stocks, a small number frequently trade shares in companies that oversee in Congress. An analyst by Public Citizen this year similarly found that fewer lawmakers appear to be trading stocks, but a dedicated number of senators are regularly trading investments in industries that they partly oversee. Politico's findings on congressional aides who are regularly trading stock raise further questions about whether the Stock Act put a sufficient check on conflicts of interest among lawmakers or their staff, watchdogs said. Behind the scenes, reform groups have been shopping several proposals that would prevent lawmakers and their aides from engaging in such behavior. Yeah, until they get offered a dollar bill, right? And then they're going to take that money and there goes, their beliefs and all that because they just got paid off. I'm the type of person you can't do that with. You can't. I don't care. You can offer me $1 billion. And if I did take it, I would be giving it right back. Like, I'd be taking it and I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll go along. And then I wouldn't at all. Fair warning. Okay, let's see. Rules and apply to the executive branch of members of Congress and their aides. Okay, the groups say they have heard some interest from lawmakers, but no one has stepped up. Oh wait, I think I missed out on some things here. Let me back up. Behind the scenes, reform group. Okay, yes, I'm sorry, I did. One idea floated by Issue 1 would ban lawmakers from trading stocks aside from mutual funds. This would ensure lawmakers have broadly diversified portfolios that they do not control. Public Citizen, meanwhile, would simply apply the much tougher conflict of interest rules that apply to the executive branch to members of Congress and their aides. The group says they have heard some interest from lawmakers, but no one has stepped forward to introduce either bill. Democrats have been focused on criticizing the Trump White House apparent ethical lapses. And lawmakers haven't proposed other plans for overhauling the stock trading system. In part, ethics watchdog says because they haven't been sufficiently shamed into doing so by the public. See? Public. We the people are the power. But they're doing everything they can to keep us ignorant, busy, poor, you name it, with problems, essentially, so that way we don't have time to deal with these ones. Though they're the ones that are causing all these problems to begin with. Something to think about there. Maybe chew it over or something, or whatever that is. Sleep on it, no, but don't sleep too long. The more embarrassing the story that comes out, the more pressure there is to do something, Noble said. A lot of members do honestly believe they should not be trading in stock while they're working in legislation, but they may not feel as strongly about it as the members who disagree. Yeah, getting pressured into doing something, yeah, just to make it look good, maybe, but they don't. Obviously, it just said there that they'll make a lot of P's and then they'll silently change it. That's the truth, though. That's exactly how it works. So, okay, the clean tech crash, CBS News, despite billions invested by the U.S. government in so-called clean tech energy, Washington and Silicon Valley have little to show for it. Despite billions invested by the U.S. government in so-called clean tech energy, Washington and Silicon Valley have little to show for it. So these are all essentially the same thing. So anyways, that was a super long read. Thanks for hanging out if you did this long. Again, remember, for the people, by the people, we are the power. When you recognize that, then start realizing it in your life and put it to work. Stop putting up with the BS. Let me help you for free. I will drop taxes like it was a bag of bricks in a river or something, and we will make better education. There is no reason why our education should be this poor, especially when we have internet. I mean, it's disgusting. It is literally a waste of time. It's like we throw more money at everything, but nothing is getting done or changing for the better at all. We're constantly being deceived and lied to, and, they're wanting more and more and more from us, but they don't want to do anything or give us or give more of themselves, with how they're in every aspect of our lives. They're not an organic source of income. They just cost money, and it's really not putting people to the best possible use that they could be put to. We as a society are not as great as we used to be. We're, we have so much potential, and we need to put that potential to use and put it to work, and we need to give people the opportunity to do so. I understand people want to be lazy and stuff like that, but, I don't think that that's really the way it is. I think that we've just been so beaten down for so long, and we just have a society that is too based on money and, commerce type things rather than family and love and spiritual guidance and, just being down to earth and here for each other and kind and helpful to one another. And, it's a simple, like, you look at people all the time, donate money to things and stuff. I mean, literally, if you took as much money as we donate, it probably would amount to as much as we pay in taxes. And, it's just, but our taxes aren't going to what they're supposed to be going to. So why are we still paying them? Wouldn't it make more sense to pay more directly instead of, putting your money in a processing center that then goes to another processing center and another and another and another, and by the time it even gets to the program it's supposed to go to, there's practically nothing left for it. They, don't want to teach us. It's like, my whole thing is, this is like my thing. Instead of always throwing money at a problem, how about we try to teach and help people learn and grow as in themselves and become better people and smarter and able to do more. And that goes the same with I forgot that part, but anyways, just we could do a lot more. And like I was going to say, give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, feed him for life. That's how I want to go about this. That's how I want to go into this. And I want to offer you guys all my time. I truly do. I just want this world to be a good world. I want it to be, fair for us all, and, just no more bullies, essentially. It'd be a great place. So let's get on it, right? Okay. Thanks for being here. I hope I'll see you on voting day. Got to figure out how to get all this going. And if you know, would love to hear from you. Thanks so much. Okay. Toodaloo.